Guys, and
Hello
welcome to
there.
our learning video on coordinates. This week we're going to be looking at plotting coordinates, which is going to be the emerging part of the mountain. Then we're going to be looking to plot coordinates in more than one quadrant. So that's not just in the positive numbers, that's in the negative numbers as well. And then we're actually going to find the distance using coordinates. I know they're using applying problems, but in today's video we're looking at just finding the distance between 2 points. Okay, over to you, Mr. Ives.
Right, so we're going to quickly look at the first one, which is plotting simple coordinates in one part of the grid. And this is always the positive grid that we're going to start working with here. So the coordinate I'm going to give to you is 9, 5. Now you've got to remember the x-axis comes first, so the 9 is going to be along the x-axis here. We'll put an x in to help us. And then the y-axis is always the one going up, all right? So what I'm going to do, 9, 5, I want you to put your finger on the screen now where you think that is. Once you've done that, I am going to change the slide and you will see if you've got it right. So get ready, get your finger on the screen, 3, 2, 1. There's coordinate 9, 5. I can tell that because I've gone 9 along the x-axis, there we go, and then I'm going 5 up, and there's the point.
Mr. Ives, when I was looking at it, I did this, I went 5 there because I got 5 there, and then I went 9 up and I was off the scale. What was I doing wrong, Mr. Ives?
Well, what you've done there, Mr. Redfern, unfortunately, you've tried to work out the x-axis as the y number. So there you go. That was your problem there.
First, I went in the wrong direction.
Make sure you're always the x-axis first, right?
Right. Okay,
I remember that as well. X. There you go. The x-axis. X is across, which means I always go across the page rather than up.
Really good, Mr.
That's quite handy technique there. You go.
Yeah, it's the first one too. Right, brilliant.
Super. So what we'll do, we'll move on. We'll have a look at something a little bit tricky. So this is going into the middle of the mountain.
Got that, yeah.
So here we go. So here's all the 4 coordinates, and you label them 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. And I've given you some different coordinates for you to work with there. Now you'll notice some of these I've got minus numbers in. That's because we've moved away from just that one positive part of the grid. So minus 5, 2, it's exactly the same thing. You're working along the x-axis and looking up at the y-axis secondly, but making sure that if it's a minus number, you're going over to the left-hand side or down the scale as well. Right.
It's a bit like when we did translation, isn't it, Mr. Ives?
Yeah, very similar.
When we had a negative number, it was negative is going to the left, isn't it?
That's exactly it. Exactly it.
Or negative is going down as well in this case.
Yeah, well, basically, they're both moving away from this positive part of the grid.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Great, so there we go. We've got 2 of them. You'll notice one of them is negative, one of them is positive. Let's have a go at plotting those. Again, I want you to figure out exactly where those are on the grid. So I think minus 5, I'm going to go along the x-axis first. There's minus 5.
Away,
and then you're going to have to figure out which way you're going for the 2, okay? So have a look at those 2, minus 5, 2, and 2 minus 6, and we are going to get that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. Those are your coordinates, and I hope you got those right. Let's have a look at something a bit more tricky with Mr. Redfern.
Right. Okay. So we're going to be going up to questions a little bit trickier than the questions that we've had before. We're going to have to apply our knowledge of coordinates and use that knowledge to solve a problem which is asking us to use different mathematical skills. Okay. So let's just have a look at the question. What is the midpoint of these 2 coordinates? Coordinates are minus 3 and 5, and 7 and 5. Okay, so have a go at this question. I'm going to pause. I'd like you to pause the video now, see if you can solve it, and have a go. And I'm going to tell you how to do it in a second. Right. Okay. So the way that I would do it is the first thing I would try to do is to visualize where these coordinates are. And when I'm doing that, I think I'd realize that I'm actually dealing with a horizontal line, as y is always 5. Okay, so what I'd actually be visualizing is something like we had in our previous question. If y is always 5, it's always going along this line in both directions. Okay, so if y is 5 there, it's there. It doesn't matter what x is, right down here, it's always going to be 5. So while I visualized that, I would also know that the x part of my answer is actually in the negatives to start with. It's negative 3 here, okay, and then it goes all the way to 7. Yeah, I know that because x is always the first coordinate. Okay, And what I'm actually visualising in my head, I mean, I wouldn't draw out a grid yourself, is a horizontal line where I've done these 2 points here, and I'm basically finding that line there. That's the line that I'm imagining. However, it's not that simple. I don't have to just find the gap from -3 to 7. I actually need to find the middle point. As we can see there, the midpoint will be 2, 5. Okay, so it would actually be 2 for the x coordinate. But actually, I don't have a grid, so I need to decide how I'm going to work it out. The way that I would work it out would be to say, right, I'm going from -3 to 7. So the first thing I need to do to find the midpoint, which is the middle point between -3 and 7, is to calculate the gap, first of all. Okay, so I'd say that to get me to 0, it would take +3. Okay, 3 jumps to get me to 0. Then all the way to 7 would be +7. So I know that that is a gap of 10 when I add them together. However, I don't want to find the distance from one to the other. I want to find what is the exact middle. And we know that if we were to split 10 into 2 equal sections, okay, that would give us 5. So all I need to do is either take 5 away from 7 or add 5 to -3, and it'll take me to the middle point. So obviously 7 take away 5 would give us 2, or -3. Add 5 would give us 2 as well. So the coordinate point is, well, I know that my y coordinate's always got to be the same, so that's got to be 5. Okay, and the x part of the coordinate would be 2. Okay, those sort of problems are the sort of ones that you'll be doing at the top of the mountain, so don't worry if you found it a little bit difficult. But I hope that was challenging for people who feel that have got a real solid understanding of coordinates. Make sure you rewatch the video if you want to have a go at any other questions again. And we'll see you on Monday. Have a nice weekend.